Hello, welcome to another PJ and Dunkley. I'm the horse racing correspondent, Anthony Dunkley. And once again, I'm joined by a man who can't make a mojito to save his life, but he can tip a winner or two. I'm four-time Snaps champion, Paul Jacobs. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Cheers, mate.
I say that because it was our office Christmas party last night. We went cocktail making. The silver shaker, as the trophy, was won by none other than Easy Odds editor Simon Hopper. So when you're watching this back, Simon, well done from all of us. Brilliant. On the PJ and Dunkley video. It's December now. It's the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup weekend at Cheltenham. It's a race which is the same distance as the Paddy Power. And actually, Paul, we're going to dive straight into this. There are a few of the principals who are reopposing, so to speak. Let's start with Kay de Burley, who benefited from a fantastic Sam Twiston Davies ride last time. And seeming to love the soft ground as well. The ground's good now. How do you think that will affect his chance?
Well, Paul Nicholls has always said he wants good ground. He said he wouldn't go on soft ground, he'd keep him away from it. And never listen to trainers. And he's only a few pound higher here. And there have been several instances in the past where horses have completed the double from the Paddy Power to this. Luckily, we've got a really good profile as far as our anti-post market is concerned. So if you're on Kate de Burley at 8 to 1, he's now 7 to 2. I think he'll start around about 5 to 2 on Saturday. And the other two horses we tipped up as well are also shorter prices. Now, you have to lay off. You have to lay off to give yourself at least a free bet, if not a profit as well. If you don't, it's just the wrong thing to do, because that's what exchanges are there for us, to use as a tool to be able to turn over regular profit, and that's what I've done. I've only had the one bet on Eric. I backed him at 25 to 1, and he's now down to 11, 12 to 1. I think he's going to go really well. He was in with every chance at the second last behind Kay de Burley and just pitched on landing and
he
was
nodded,
given an
he?
easy time. And I think he wants the better ground as well, Dunkers. And Barrakilla's the unexposed horse in the field, very lightly raced. Looked like the best horse in the race at Sandown last time. Evan Williams thinks an awful lot of him. And I think, we've got the market cornered. So if you've got on at the prices that we told you about on the 3rd of December, brilliant. You're in a strong position. Lay off or do whatever you want to do. If you've not got on, I still think Kay de Burley will win this race. I still think he's the class horse in the race. And I think I think Paul Nicholls will probably run him in the Ryanair Chase in March, especially if he wins this in really good fashion. But I wouldn't go any lower than 3 to 1 price-wise about it.
Definitely not. Talk to me about Splash of Ginge quickly, because he had a terrible chase debut. He was beaten many lengths back into 3rd of 4. Then he beat that same horse by 9 lengths in a 3-runner race. And last time, nothing seemed to go right. Do you see him as a chaser? Because he won a Betfair handicap hurdle. He was a very good hurdler.
I think he jumped like an absolute dog last time. And the quote from Nigel Twiston Davies is, I love when trainers do this, we're hoping he's well handicapped. Well, I don't think he's well handicapped. I think he's too close to Kay de Burley. And you know what? He could be taken off his feet here, and his jumping could suffer as well. The other side of the coin is, because he'd be going at a quicker pace in a race like this, his jumping may benefit, but I think the odds are that he's going to find it tough off his mark.
I think so as well. Egado Soul, difficult off top weight?
Yeah, and again, he's another horse. There's a lot of horses down through the field here, Dunkers, that are going to be suited by the better ground. He's one of them, Egado Soul, Easter Meteor. They'll both love the better ground here. For all intents and purposes, they're handicapped up to their best form. But again, if he puts in a clear round, he's got a major chance here at Egado. So he loves Cheltenham. He ran here in the Coral Hurdle last year. I think he finished 9th of the 5,000 runners in the Coral Hurdle. But he ran such a really good race. I think he traded as low as 2.6, 2.8 or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, coming down the hill. So he loves this track. I'd just be disappointed if Kay de Burley, although he's getting only a small amount of weight off, and can't beat him, because he's the more progressive horse. And further down the field, getting the best part of a stone, Eric and Barrakilla's should really beat Egado Soul, I think.
And a last word on Dana, who defied a gigantic layoff to win by about 18 lengths last time I said.
And has had terrible problems. Not just one problem, but 3 or 4 problems down through his career as far as injuries are concerned and conditions are concerned. And Kim Bailey got him back in really good form last time. I think he's pitching a bit too high here. I'll be really surprised if Dana can win this. This is very surprised.
Bit of a searching mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he's currently 14 to 1 for anyone who wants to get involved. I'm going to be sticking with you, Paul. I think Eric is is very interesting. He never starts this season that well, but the third before the Paddy Power was very encouraging, and if he hadn't pitched on landing 2 out, as you said, and then he was kind of bustled up and he didn't have much room when he was jumping the last, and they all kind of finished in a bit of a blanket, and he was just eased down and given an easier time.
I'm just hoping, and obviously Barry Geraghty rides him, I'm hoping Barry is a lot more patient on him. I think he wants to be very slowly ridden, creepy closer, and I don't want to see him unveiled until the final fence.
No.
And I think his jumping will be helped by the better ground. I just wish I had a bit more on than I did, but he's still available at 11 to 1. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if he's a prize horse, you know.
With the makeup of the race, do you see Cade de Burley lunging as late as he did in the Paddy Power?
I think that's the way he likes to play. He's done it over hurdles every time since he's come to Paul Nicholls. And there's plenty of pace on here.
Sorry, Paul, does that mean he's a difficult horse? He can't get to the front too soon? Or are they just playing to the strengths of him having something to run at?
He has said that before, hasn't he, Paul Nicholls, that he's not the easiest to ride, but I think he's naturally come from behind horse. But you're right, I don't think he wants to hit the front too soon in any case. And I just think the race worked out really nicely, the Paddy Power form, just perfectly for him. But there is lots of pace in this race, even though What a Warrior obviously has been taken out. You know, Gardo, Sal, Eastern Meteor like to come from the front. Splash of Ginger has always been a prominent runner in any case. The likelihood is that 2 or 3 others will be there or thereabout. This is going to be a really fast run race, and I think it's going to be exaggerated even more so because of the quicker ground.
And those up front will cut each other's throats.
Well, they may not do. I mean, it all depends sort of what kind of fractions they put in, but they may or may not do it. But this is the first time we've had good ground at Cheltenham all season. So, you know, they're going to have to get it absolutely spot on. But I prefer my 3 coming, and they'll all come from off the pace. And I think the race is made for it.
Well, I can't wait for it. It's going to be a fantastic race. We're going to move on to reflections in running now. 3 for you this week. We're going to start with a Beecher chase. And Paul, you're not happy with the opinions in the Racing Post the day after.
That's just amazing. I mean, the actual sort of look back at the Racing Post and the way that it was read by whoever was on that day. And I'm not going to mention his name, but also afterwards by the press on the Monday as well. Astonished me. Oscar Time won. It was a great performance by a 13-year-old, but he doesn't stay 4.5 miles. He's shown that in the Grand National before, and yet we had journalists writing on the Monday saying, "Oh, well, if he turns up in April at Aintree for the Grand National, he's going to go close." Well, he's not going to turn up. It's just the most stupid thing to say. Then we had a couple of journalists on the Monday. I think was on the Monday panel, saying, "Oh, Mendip Express looks like an out-and-out stayer. He's a Grand National horse." Well, no. Harry Fry has already said that 3.25 miles is as far as he wants to go, and that was proven by the race behind Oscar Time. He was beaten 3/4 a length. Now, there are 3 horses to take from the race. One is Highland Lodge, who ran the previous year's Hennessy, who again doesn't really get 3.25 miles on soft ground. He's a bang 3-miler on good ground. He'll win a nice race this season for Emma Lavelle. He's over a stone lower than he was this time last season. The other one is Saint R, who basically handles the fences really well. He's dropped £14 of the rating since he ran 9th in Aurora's Encore's Grand National. And if he gets into the race in April, he'll run a huge race. And the other one for me, which nobody picked up on, was Alfie Spinner, who jumped beautifully down the inside for the majority of the race, was outpaced at the Milling Road as I thought he would be, and then ran on again at the long home stretch from the elbow and finished really strongly. He's like St. R, he needs to go up in the weights to get into the Grand National. He's rated 128. You need to be a 140 horse to get into the National. And he arguably wants given the ground, but the ground is very rarely fast nowadays in the National because of obvious reasons, yeah? And Alfie Spinner jumped beautifully along the inside, which is traditionally the hardest passage to take because the fences are a bit more severe down the inside. But Nick Williams, if you can keep him fit and fresh, he's well handicapped on numerous pieces of form over the last 2 years, even though he hasn't won for a long time.
Another horse in action on that day was Marfilieu, who showed that she was someone to really follow last season, and you think she's a major King George player?
I loved her when she won the Topham Trophy over the national fences last year. She was brilliant, and of course she gets that all-important mare's allowance as well, and it's huge. And it was a real shame in the race behind Sam Winner that half the fences basically were taken up because of the low sun. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have beaten Sam Winner. Apart from one mistake down the far side for the final time, she jumped beautifully. Sam Winner is essentially a galloper, so the 3-mile odd trip there suited him down to the ground, especially as they ran down the whole of the straight on the flat. There were no fences down the whole of the straight. And a big asset that Maffaliera's got is the jumping, and I think around Kempton Park, where the fences come bang, 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 bang. Yeah, I mean, she's not definite she's going to run, but you know, how much do you want on at 33 to 1 at this stage, and bigger on the exchanges as well. I mean, Kempton for me is made for her, and as I say, that allowance you get is huge. It's a very open King George this year, and I do believe that she would have a major chance if Nikki lets her take a chance there. She is a very, very smart mare, a really smart mare.
Well, I'm going to be there, Paul. If she's there, I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do so.
And finally, a race that happens the day after the Welsh National, but in the trial, you're pretty annoyed at Ladbrokes.
Well, I think I'm not annoyed. I'm quite glad, because I went in again on a horse because I thought Ladbrokes got it all wrong. The Welsh National Trial was run by Rebecca's Choice, right?
Yeah.
And it's run on good to soft ground. It is, well, the likelihood is, I'm not saying it's not going to be, but the chances are, done, because it's not going to be good to soft ground. The likelihood is going to be soft, heavy in places, heavy, soft in places, whichever way around you want it. And Hawke's Point finished a distant third, but he wants really, really deep ground. He came off a similar run last year to finish a brilliant second, and arguably would have won in another stride as well, and would have beaten Mountains, who's also on a really good trial on ground that wasn't soft enough for him. And initially, and I couldn't believe it, Ladbrokes on the Sunday and the Monday put Hawke's Point, basically made him go from 14 to 25 to 1. Everybody else was 14 to 1. Ladbrokes this is unusual for Ladbrokes, because they're normally on the ball. And Hawke's Point was 25 to 1. So I went in again, I didn't have a really big bet. And then 24 hours later, 16 to 1. And I couldn't believe it was still 16 to 1. Now it's a top price 14 to 1. So I think Ladbrokes have made a rig. And I'm hoping that you punters out there are gonna make them pay, because we put Hawke's Point up originally in our anti-post column. And I think he's an absolute certainty to be placed in the race if he's in the same form as last year. Absolute certainty of his current mark. Paul Nicholls knows what he wants. He wants deep ground, and we know he acts around Chepstow. And for me, Chepstow is a specialist track, and it's perfect for Hawke's Point. So Ladbrokes, they got it all wrong. Let's make them pay. I hope you are back on again at 25 to 1 in that sort of 24-hour, 36-hour period, because I'm really sweet on Hawke's Point each way for the Welsh National.
Well, join us next week when we're going to be talking about the Christmas races. It's all coming up very soon. There's a ton of them, but we're going to be racking our brains over the week and coming up with the best betting opportunities with what we have at that point. It's going to be on the earlier day of Tuesday next week, so tune in and get your bets on early. Thank you very much, Paul, once again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.